I want to talk about the deeper shadow aspects of life, feelings of depression, despair, the lack of hope, whether it's caused by PMS or PMDD, or whether you just have a general feeling of depression. I want to make this video to help you and guide you on these feelings, not only to give you practical advice and tell you what to do at all, more so to explain to you why you feel this way and create space for it and give you some very useful insights that can help you to deal with it overall. Not everyone knows what it feels like, the feeling of depression, luckily, but the people that I have spoken to and then my own feelings of depression that I've experienced at times, I do see a lot of similarities, right? There is this sort of overarching feeling of lack of purpose, don't know why you're doing everything, don't want to get out of bed, don't feel motivation for anything. I can make all these videos about manifestation and the positive aspects of life, but that wouldn't be real because life is dynamic. Life has duality, life has ups and downs, right? And the people that get to experience depression are probably gifted, or probably spiritual people or psychic people, or people that actually experience emotions on a very, very deep level, which means that when the emotions are negative, so when you go low, you go really, really low, and it can feel like, I always feel like it feels like a well, right? You're like stuck in the depression well, and it's like you remember there was a time where you felt better, but you can't picture that. You can't actually believe that you ever felt better. You actually, when you feel depressed, you convince yourself that it has always been that way and you always have felt low, and it's like this well that you're stuck in, and nothing really feels the same anymore, you know, nothing really motivates you. And the same things that you were going on in your life suddenly don't have the same motivation to it anymore, or suddenly don't feel the same anymore. Now, I found some ways to cope with it. I found some ways to change my perspective on these feelings of depression or low emotions, right? The first thing that I want to assure you of is that there probably was a reason why you got to experience these depths of emotions, right? And we don't always have to run away from it. The first and foremost understanding that I want you to have about these feelings of depression is I want you to stop identifying with the word depressed. I don't want you going around saying, I am depressed. It is not your identity. And this is a dangerous one. And I'm not saying we shouldn't acknowledge the way you feel right now. We should. But I'm saying I don't want you to walk around and make this your identity, because that is counterproductive to the feeling. We have to understand that feelings in this human experience are fleeting. We know this. No feeling of joy is permanent. No feeling of even sadness and depression is permanent, even though it does feel like that right now. But you have to start to live from the first assumption that is emotions are fleeting. So I'm not going to identify with this feeling of depression. And I even want you to take it a level further. I want you to externalize the depression a little bit. I want you to say, my depressed brain, right? Your brain right now is functioning in a depressed way. Now, I'm not saying that depression is only a result of chemical imbalance, which is what the scientists like to say, right? I believe there's more to that. The soul that incarnated into this body has to play a role here as well. It's like your brain is the instrument, but your soul is playing the instrument. And when the music doesn't sound good, it's not the instrument that is the problem usually only, right? Maybe a little bit, but it is also the person that is playing the instrument, so your soul. But that is another story. I want you to still externalize and understand that your brain right now is functioning in a depressed way. It is not you. It is not who you are. It is not your identity, and it is not permanent. And when we keep going around saying, I am depressed, we know about affirmations, right? This is an affirmation. So we keep this identity alive in ourselves. And when you understand and when you externalize your depressed brain a little bit, whenever you're negatively spiraling, and this is the thing, right? Sometimes I say that thoughts manifest the emotions, but with depression, I feel like the emotions manifest the thoughts. And then I was thinking about it in a deeper way. And I think thoughts and emotions are like chicken and the egg. They enforce each other, right? There's no first one. But with depression, it is like your feelings manifest the thoughts. So it is like you're trying to find problems in everything. Things that you could previously look at from a positive perspective. When you feel depressed, suddenly everything becomes negative, and you'll create a doom scenario there, and you create a problem there, and you create an argument in every relationship that you have, and that person hasn't done that, so they must be mad at you. Or the work that you previously felt motivated about, suddenly you're just like, what am I doing with my life? What is this, right? Everything gets a negative thought. Everything gets a negative perspective based on your feelings. And I want you to, when that happens, I want you to say, okay, that's okay. That's my depressed brain going along a little bit. It is like your brain is trying to seek thoughts of fear. It wants to resonate and it wants to shimmer in that negativity. Sounds a bit negative, but it does work in that a little bit. So this, like, it's going to find anxiety, and it's going to find anxious thoughts, and it's going to find things to freak you out the whole time, because that really resonates with you right now. And whenever that happens, you can say, okay, no, that's just my depressed brain going off a spinsel. That's just my depressed brain going off on a rant. It is not me. It is not who I am. It is not the truth. It is just the depressed brain. It is just the depressed thoughts that are being presented to me, right? Now, another thing that might be a little bit controversial, but talking about your depression with other people. On the one hand, yes, we need to speak about our emotions. We can't do everything ourselves. On the other hand, most times when I speak about my depression, or when I speak about my depressed feelings, there's no depression. There's nothing permanent here, right? When I speak about them, I keep them into existence, and there is this loop that I enter in, because now the other person knows about my feelings. So it is like this subconscious part of me is then continuing the feeling, not to prove that I still am that way, but once it is out there, it is like, you know, the other person knows, and it has become part of your identity at that point. So now it is hard to just suddenly crack a joke and become different or switch out of it, because you've now spoken about it and you've now made it part of your identity. So 9 out of 10 times I would say talking about it a lot is counterproductive to trying to let go of the feeling, because again, I want you to think about it like this is a feeling in me, right? I'm feeling depressed right now. I'm in a depressive episode. Nothing permanent here. And when we keep it in our identity, when we keep saying I am depressed, or when we keep speaking about it to other people, all we do is keep that identity alive in us. We're literally, it is like, normally an emotion is like a wave, right? But when we identify with it, we surf the wave permanently. We like clench onto it and we're like, okay, that's my emotion now. I am depressed. And we walk around and we tell other people, I feel this way, or I am depressed. Of course, I'm not saying don't speak about it with anyone. That's not healthy either. I'm saying be very aware whenever you speak about it, whether it is actually helping you in that moment. Because sometimes I feel low again, or I feel the feeling of depression or depressed. Luckily not too often anymore. For me, it's mainly before my period. But when I then speak about it, I notice that when I see that same person again, or when we speak again, we're now again referring to my feelings. Like, oh, are you still feeling that way? And it is not really helping them, because then there is a subconscious part of me that wants to continue the feeling because I already communicated that to the world that I am feeling that way. It's weird, but really try to go deep within yourself if that is a thing that happens, because once we speak about it, we immediately are identifying with it. And the most important thing with letting go of the feeling of depression is stop identifying with it, right? Stop making it a permanent part of your state of being. And even though you feel that way right now, it's like you are having a little bit of a depressed brain right now. It is not who you are, and it is not permanent. Now, another core realization about depression is that it is always caused by one thing only, and that is a lack of self-love. The feeling of depression comes from self-hate. It comes from hating yourself. It comes from hating your life. It comes from lack of confidence. It comes from lack of self-love. Always. And when I remember this, when I feel that way, I suddenly go back and I'm like, okay, how have I been treating myself? Right? It is like when you feel depressed, you don't feel like taking care of yourself anymore, right? You don't feel like giving yourself the right nutrients. You don't feel like taking the time to do your self-care routine. You don't feel like going for a walk or going to exercise. You don't feel like all of these things. Why? Because you don't feel like you're deserving of that anymore. When in reality, it is the core thing that you need. And you know what true self-love is? You know what true showing up for yourself is taking care of yourself despite the way you feel. When you have a child that is really upset and they don't feel like doing anything, what are you gonna do? You're gonna do everything to make them feel better. It's easy for you to do that because you feel okay and the child doesn't, and you're gonna put in the energy to make that child feel better. Now, the most difficult part about self-love is when we don't feel that way, we also have to be the person that is showing up for ourselves and taking care of ourselves. But we are also the ones feeling depressed. How can we be both at the same time, right? And again, externalize that depressed brain of yours. It's like, okay, my brain is a little bit depressed. My feelings right now are feelings of depression, a feeling of depression. What can I do to make myself feel better? And I know you don't feel like this, but you have to remember, why did you end up in this well? Why did you end up in this depression well? It's because there was a part of you that went back to lack of self-love, lack of self-appreciation. So how can we artificially do something to make ourselves feel a little bit worthy again, a little bit loved again, a little bit, taken care of again? Because our feelings are low and depressed, and those low and depressed feelings are just going to find depressed thoughts to resonate with. What can we do to make ourselves feel better so that our thoughts will change as a result? It's not going to happen inside the depression well. You're not going to want or feel motivated to do any of these things. But you have to remember that the only way to get out of the well is to actively do something to make yourself feel better, right? And don't even put too much expectation on it. Not like, oh, you feel depressed and you go for a walk and it's gonna fix everything. Not at all. But at least you've done it. At least you've tried. At least you can be happy with yourself that you tried something, even though it might have not worked or worked like 1% and the rest is still really dark and empty, and you just feel depressed on your walk. At least it's 1% less. At least there's one thing that you did for yourself to try to make yourself feel better. And that is just immediately going to relieve a little bit. And if not, if it maybe just keeps you at the same level, but it will not make it worse. Because when we keep spiraling in our own negativity, it is just, and we're also doing nothing about it, the self-hatred becomes even more, because now you're also in your head a lazy person who doesn't do anything and is making nothing of their life and doesn't feel any purpose, right? We also, in these feelings of depression, lack the feeling of purpose. It's like we don't feel like anything matters anymore, right? There's no purpose to things. And going on a walk or doing something, I think going on a walk is a useful thing, is the most useful thing, I think. At least it gives you a little bit of purpose, a little bit of like go to the grocery store and get some groceries. So that is like a purpose, right? Because we need to find these feelings of purpose again, even however minor it is. And another really important thing is that you have to imagine, from a spiritual level, there's a lot of stagnant energy in your body, right? And getting movement, even when you don't feel like it. I know you don't feel like it, but getting movement is just a way to reconnect to life force energy. You're living in the shadow aspect of life. You're living in the deepest, darkest thoughts and things, and to get out of that and to sort of get a little bit more of that positive, lighter life force energy, we need to go outside. I honestly believe we do. We need to reconnect with nature. We need to move so that we get the energy flowing again. So go outside and go for a walk. Maybe do some stretches, do some yoga poses. You need to do something to reconnect to life force energy, right? And another useful thing to do is reduce the chaos in your life. right? We're feeling stressed, or we're feeling depressed, or we're feeling low. Not even stressed, that's a different thing. But we're feeling low. And deep down we also crave structure and order, right? So reduce the chaos by making sure that your environment is at least not chaotic, right? That you get a little bit of pleasure and joy at least out of your clean sheets, or your clean room. A little bit, no matter how minor it is, at least it makes you feel a little bit better about yourself. It's like, okay, at least I've cleaned my room and I've taken care of that. We need to get back to the loop of feeling good about ourselves. As I said, the depression is all about self-hatred. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, and maybe there are going to be people that don't agree with me, but I want those people to go really deep within themselves and feel, why are they feeling so low? It is all because there is a negative narrative going on towards yourself. And you feel anxious going outside because you feel weird, and it is all about negative about you, and you don't feel good about your life, and you don't feel good about this. It is all about you. And even when you feel in your depressed state problems with other people, those are also created by you. Everything in life is about how you view yourself. Everything, how you feel, is always about how you feel about yourself. So we need to get back to that loop. Feeling a little bit better about ourselves, and a little bit better about ourselves, and a little bit climb the ladder, right? Climb the ladder of the depression well. And we need to do these small minor things to feel better about ourselves. So go on that walk, clean your room, clean your teeth, right? And get in the loop of a little bit of tiny bit of self-appreciation. The only way out of depression is finding appreciation for yourself again, in whichever way. I want to give you an exercise to do when you feel depressed. I want you to write down 10 things you love about yourself, 10 things you love about your life, and 3 things you love about today. Right? So 10 things you love about yourself, 10 things you love about your life, and 3 things you love or feel grateful for today. No matter how small, no matter how big. We need to get your mind back on a different spin. So we need to do things to reintroduce self-love and self-appreciation again. The reason you're feeling this way is because you're probably now in the deepest, darkest well of self-hatred, and it is really hard to get out of. Right? And even the things I'm saying now, it's like, I know that on the deepest, darkest spot, nothing really numbs it, right? Nothing really helps, nothing really feels. And this is not about fixing it. Maybe that shouldn't even be the aim, right? I'm telling you the psychology behind depression, which is a lack of self-love, right? And 2 things are really important to remember from this video, right? 1, stop affirming the depression as a permanent state of being, as an identity. Stop speaking about it as an identity. Accept that it is a feeling, a depressed brain that is occupying you right now, that is creating these negative thoughts and creating this based on from your depressed feeling, right? But it is not permanent, it's fleeting, and we should never identify with emotions. And the second thing is that it always comes from a lack of self-love and self-appreciation. So we need to do very tiny, small, little steps to reintroduce feeling good about ourselves again. Whether it is taking care of our room, whether it is taking care of the way we look, whether it is going outside, right? As I said, going outside and going on a walk is a really, really, really important one. Even just, not even to cure your depression, but to reconnect with the forces in nature that are beyond us, right? That can instill a little bit of life force and purpose in you again, and feeling of why you're here, right? Because that is the feeling that is missing. And we have to do small little things to get back into the loop of self-appreciation and self-worth. Like, you're worth to be taken care of. You're worthy of a clean room. You're worthy to go for a walk, and understand that the feeling is fleeting. It is not permanent. I hope anything in this video was useful. If it was, definitely leave me a like and subscribe to my channel. Also, I launched a manifestation course recently for people that really need that structure and guidance from me on a day-to-day basis in a period of 5 weeks, getting in alignment with your highest self. And 5 weeks is the scientifically proven time that I need to actually change who you are, right? Because that's the aim. I'm trying to help you identity shift into a new version of you. And that requires understanding what your current self-concept is, but also releasing the ego and past trauma, and basically doing this whole big psychoanalysis of your self-concept and your trauma and everything holding you back, so that we can understand what we were currently manifesting. And then I'm teaching you the exact manifestation, scripting, and visualization techniques to call in your desires. And in 5 weeks, you'll be stepped into the highest version of you. People have been loving the course. I'll show some reviews over here. And I also would love to help you through my course. So definitely sign up if that feels like something you need to do. And thank you so much for watching. I love you. I hope you feel better if you're watching this, and know you're not alone in these feelings, and know that you're probably really special and gifted. The fact that you get to experience all depths of emotions. The lower you get, the higher you also can go.